Hey YouTube, Qualia here, bringing you all my future card Buddyfight Ultimate Garga G-Boost deck profile for post Ultimate Unite. This is the final form for G-Boost Gargantua Dragon, being the form that he is able to use all of the different G-Boost base, craft, and will abilities in one form, being Ultimate Garga. It's a really awesome deck. I really was hoping we would get something like this because individually I was unimpressed by the G-Boost Craft, G-Boost Will, and G-Boost Base decks, but being able to use them all, keeps the deck interesting. You can use different abilities each turn depending on the G-Boosts you have in the drop zone, and then all the other support for Ultimate Garga is meant to also combat the new God Clock deck, being able to break out of Frozen Time and then defeat your opponent with Ultimate Garga and Yuga's new weapon arsenal and all the other deity dragon tribes. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So the main buddy I'm using for the deck is Ultimate Garga, with this being for the Dragon World world flag. This one is your go-to buddy. You really have an easy search for Ultimate Garga as a whole in the deck. That's why I decided to make it my buddy, since it is the card you normally want to call out to the field the most. But as for the numbers in the deck, I decided just to run 3 Ultimate Garga with the other G-Boost monsters, the numbers we run. I found it got a little cloggy having 4. It can be an option if you wanted to drop maybe one of the Gar Cats we're running for a 4th copy, but with this card, you pay 3 gauge, put the top 2 cards of your deck into its soul. Abilities of all cards on your field cannot be nullified by your opponent's card effects, and it has G-Boost EX, which you choose up to 1 card each with G-Boost Base, Craft, and Will in your drop zone. And for this turn, this card gets the chosen cards G-Boost, and you may only use G-Boost EX once per turn. G-Boost EX is also treated as G-Boost Base, Craft, and Will. This card also has Move, Soul Guard, and Counterattack, and it is a Drag God, so you can use it in all world flags, but mostly I would say this version is meant for the Dragon World support we have all together with the different G-Boost cards. So you need this card as your main setup, and then the main focus of the deck is to also set up all your other cards in the drop zone for you to use for the G-Boost abilities. As for the other G-Boost Gargantua Dragons, I am running 1 Gargantua/Wyvern, 1 Gargantua Blade Centaur, and 1 Gargantua Night Dragon. I feel these numbers are all you need for your setup, since you just want to have them in the drop zone to use for the copy of Ultimate Garga. You don't really need them for any other use. I mean, if they're the only ones you have, you can use them and obviously use their G-Boost abilities, but just having them set up, if you can get all 3 in the drop zone and then have Ultimate Garga copy all 3 of their G-Boosts, you can hit for triple attack, amazing power and critical, and also be able to deal damage and heal against your opponent, which is the main use of these cards in the deck overall. So you really only need the 1-ofs for each, since there's other cards in the deck that also set them up in the drop zone while also searching out Ultimate Garga for those plays. And for more of the search with the Deity Dragon Tribe monsters, I run 4 Dio Gardra. When this card enters the field, drop a hand card. If you do, put the top card of your deck into your gauge. Put up to 1 card with G-Boost Will from your deck into your hand and shuffle your deck. So with Ultimate Garga counting as all of the G-Boost Base, Craft, and Will, this is your go-to search card. And if you gain life if a card with G-Boost is on your field, drop up to 2 your opponent's gauge, and this ability only activates once per turn. So if you have your Gargantua/Wyvern also in the drop zone and you use G-Boost Will on the first attack with this card, you can drop your opponent's gauge down to nothing and also just have yours fully set up with a bunch of other support already on the field for you to use. And dropping your opponent's gauge turn 1 is a big burden for your opponent to get around also. So for Dio Gardra with the search and the setup, definitely needed in the deck. Another one being your Awakened Deity Dragon Trom Gardra, which I run 3 of. When this card enters the field, put up to 1 monster with G-Boost from your deck into your drop zone, shuffle your deck, then a monster with G-Boost EX is on your field, put the top card of your deck in your gauge. You gain a life and draw a card. And Wings of the Future only activates once per turn, but the setup for this card sets up all the G-Boost in your drop zone for the setup, and put this card from the field into the soul of a card G-Boost on your field, so you can just set up more soul for your Ultimate Garga to have with Soul Guard and Counterattack power. But I only run 3 of this card for the fact that once you get the setup, all it is really then is a soul, guard power boost for your ultimate Garga. And that's why, most of the time you can get the setup with some of the other cards we're running in the deck, but this one definitely does come in handy for that setup. For some of the other Deity Dragon tribes, I'm also running 3 Garcat just for the gauge and draw power, having another Deity Dragon tribe on your field. It definitely does come in handy for that setup. So I like to run 3 just because we have some other gauge and draw power, but this one I would say is the most generic. It doesn't really revolve around the G boost. You can even have one of your weapons, equipped, and you'll still be able to get the gauge and draw power setup, and hopefully maybe even hit to some of your, Gargas you may need for your plays. The other one, which I also run 3 of, is Awakened Deity Dragon, Garcat. When this card enters the field, if a card with G boost is on your field, draw a card. It's got 1,000 power, 1,000 defense, and 1 critical, but still very useful since if you use G boost base, when this card attacks, if its power is 10,000 or greater, gain 1 life and deal 1 damage to your opponent. You can even give it triple attack with G boost craft, but most of the time it just has the double attack, which is another added bonus as well. And then also to finish off the monsters, just the 1 Awakened Deity Dragon Guard. When it enters the field, you may drop a hand card. If you do, put the top card deck in your gauge. Put up to 1 card with G-Boost based from your deck to your hand. Shuffle your deck. If a Dragon's on your field, this card's attack cannot be nullified if it's attacking alone. Being a 2 critical, Ultimate Awakened Deity Guard can search out Ultimate Garga or just the G-Boost, depending on what you need. You may already have the Ultimate Garga, but the G-Boost base can still be added to your hand to then be put in the drop zone also with other cards. So 1 Guard Dog, I feel the other searchers, including Trom and Dio, just come in handy a lot more, but still good to have for that option. And then for the weapons, I run 1 Deity Dragon Lightning Blade, or Gargantua Sword, or Gar Wyvern Sword, 1 Deity Dragon Garlight Rapier, and 1 Deity Friendship Combat Fang Sword Garga Saber, being the G-Boost EX version. The other ones are for Craft and Will, but still have options to stand pressure and also just for more protection with these other weapons. You have the options depending on which one you want to go for with each one also. Ultimate Garga Saber usually is the one I like to use the most, but they're also searchable with Dragod Shine in the deck, so depending on which one you need for the situation, they all come in handy, but just having different ones, especially with the additional critical with Gar Wyvern Sword, the restand power for all your monsters with Gar Light Rapier, and then the double attack pressure as well with this one, your Ultimate Garga Saber. Depending on the situation is when I like to equip one of these specific sabers for the deck. And that is it for the monsters and weapons. Now moving on to the different spells. I run 3 Gar Oracle, just easy draw power with the deck. You pay 1 gauge, draw 2 cards. Then if you have a Dragon on your field, gain 2 life. And you mostly always have Ultimate Garga out on the field, so you get the draw 2 life along with the draw 2 also. You just need to have a Deity Dragon on the field for the draw 2. So even just having the weapon, equipped or having a Garcat makes this a very useful card for the draw power. And for the item search and the recycle power of your Deity Dragon monsters in the drop zone, I run 3 Dragod Shine. All you have to do is pay 1 life, use one of the following. You can only use Dragod Shine once per turn. You put up to 1 Deity Dragon Tribe item from your deck in your hand and shuffle your deck, or the add of 2 Deity Dragon Tribe monsters with different names from your drop zone to your hand. Great way to recycle your ultimate Garga back to your hand if your opponent's able to get over it multiple times, or, like I said, being able to search one of the 3 different weapon options we run in the deck also. And I also run 3 G Boost over with this one. You may only cast this if a card with G Boost is on your field. Look at 3 cards on the top of your deck, put up to 2 from among them into your hand, put 2, and then put the rest into the gauge. You only cast G Boost over once per turn, so just having a G Boost on the field, then being able to search for 1 card from among them, putting 2 from among them into your hand and the rest in the gauge. So it builds up gauge, but then gives you an amazing amount of cards in your hand to use also. So it added plus for this as well. It's a once per turn though, so remember that, especially with other cards like Gar Oracle, Dragod Shine, depending on what cards you want to go for, and set up in the gauge for the rest of them. I also run 2 Combat Deity Arises just during the final phase, being able to restand all your Dragon Deity tribe on your field. Then all cards on your field can attack during the final phase. It's just that added pressure just for the 2 gauge, which you can easily build with other cards in the deck also. And I also run 2 Gauri Grants. You may only cast this if you use G-Boost Will during this turn. Look at 4 cards at the top of your deck, put 2 from among them into your hand, rest into your gauge. Then you may call a deity, dragon, tribe monster from your hand by paying its call cost. So more setup for the combat deity arises with this card also. Just 2 though, since it is limited, you have to have the G-Boost Will set up to use it also. And then more pressure for just the generic G-Boost. I run 2 Gauri Stream, the restand power. And they cannot be, all your deity, dragon, tribe on the field cannot be rested or returned to the hand. Depending on the type of deck you're going up against, this one definitely does help for that play. And you gain a life every time a deity, dragon, tribe on your field stands for that pressure also. And I'm also running 2 of the new Perfected Dragod. Put up to 1 spell with Gauri from your deck to your hand. Shuffle your deck. You might cast this once per turn. And you have to have G-Boost DX on your field, which, excuse me, happens most of the time for that setup. But just paying 1 life for its cast cost is very easy to accomplish. Then being able to search any of the different Gauri spells is definitely useful as well, depending on which one you want to add to your hand to use for your plays. One of the other ones being your Gauri Command, being able to call a deity, dragon, tribe from your deck, and also setting up the gauge with this one also. And for more of the rest pressure against your opponent, 2 Blade Breaking Shockwave. You rest 2 cards in your opponent's field. Then if a card with G-Boost is on your field for this turn, the chosen cards cannot stand. So just more pressure, especially if your opponent has spells that can restand them. So being able to stop that stand is the thing I was fearful the most of when going up against a lot of my opponent's different cards, especially Genesis Dragons, when they can restand the hands and attack again with all the different ones they have on the field. And I also run 2 Gargantuan Evolution. This is the go-to spell to set up all the different ones for G-Boost. In your drop zone, you reveal 3 monsters with G-Boost and different card names from your deck. Flip them face down. Shuffle them. Your opponent chooses one from among them. Put the chosen card into your hand and then drop the rest. So if you reveal all 3, dropping 2 of them, adding 1 to your hand, even the chance of revealing an ultimate Garga, and then hopefully adding that one to your hand, setting up 2 of the other ones. I run 2 of this, but once you set up the one, you really don't need the second one. So if I open up multiples of this, I always just charge the other one into the gauge and then use the one for the play. And then for some of the one-up spells, I run 1 Gauri Dasher and 1 Gauri Invitation. You stand every time with G-Boost Craft, you deal damage to your opponent. You only use it if you use G-Boost Craft, but still, most of the time you will use this skill. And with G-Boost Will, pay 1 gauge, choosing one of the following. You can either gain 5 life or nullify the abilities of a monster in your opponent's field and destroy it. Both very useful depending on the G-Boost you use that turn, which can potentially also be all of them, so you can even use all of these during 1 turn. And lastly, for the impact, probably the best way to stop the God Clock deck, but also pretty generic with your G-Boost for the 5 damage, is 2 Deity Strike Ultimate Gargantua Punisher. So it breaks you out of the time stop and deals 5 damage to your opponent, or even just being a generic impact, having your item and the Gargantua G-Boost on the field for 5 damage to your opponent also. I like to run 2 of it for that play, and like I said, being able to stop the God Clock is just an added bonus. I think so. It's also a Dragod, which you can play in other decks also, which is pretty cool, being a more staple kind of impact to side against the God Clock deck. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Probably going to be working on some other future card Buddyfight sets from the Ultimate Unite Booster Pack, including the Danger Veggies, so look forward to that. But until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Qualia out.